What makes a good mystery/detective adventure game? And most importantly, is Cathy Rain a good mystery/detective point-and-click adventure game? My name is Siperos, and these are my thoughts on Cathy Rain, a point-and-click adventure game developed by Clifftop Games and published by Raw Fury on May 2016. Before I start, I let you know that I go with the assumption that you have either seen my or someone else's Let's Play of the game, or you have played it yourself. But I'm still going to avoid story and puzzle spoilers. Actually, I don't think I could spoil the former even if I tried, because the story is simply that confusing. But more about that later. I'm a big sucker for good detective stories like Sherlock Holmes, Agatha Christie stories, TV series like Murder, She Wrote, and so on. So I was rather excited about Cathy Rain and to experience a detective story in an adventure game. But in this game we don't play as someone similar to Sherlock Holmes, Hercule Poirot or Jessica Fletcher, but as a 20 or so year old journalism major, Cathy Rain. And the game takes place in the United States in the 90s. The story is about Cathy Rain investigating the mysterious death of her recently deceased grandfather, Joseph Rain, but the case turns out to be much more complicated and eerie than it at first seems, raising more questions as you progress in the story. And Cathy must also face and deal with her own personal issues and memories of the past. When it comes to the plot and the setting, this game is rather serious and it goes through some very heavy topics such as mental illness, abortion, suicide, religion to some extent, there's some sexism as well at least a couple of times, and dealing with the grief of losing someone important to you. Now, despite all those heavy topics, the game itself is not as grim and dark as I may have made it sound, although there are some dark moments in the game. How could there not be when dealing with subjects like these? And there are moments that really creeped me out. But it's not too dark and there is many light-hearted moments, but don't expect Monkey Island level of humor. So no need to shy away from the game because of the tone. Anyway, that's quite a few serious topics to touch upon in one not very long game. I beat the game in about 12-13 hours. So naturally some of them get more attention than others, and I think that's the game's one weakness. None of the subjects are explored very deeply. I'm all for games making the player think about things like religion, suicide, death in general, mental illness and so on, but none of those subjects were covered extensively, at least in my opinion, and so they didn't leave much of an impact on me personally, although there were at least a couple of very powerful and emotional moments there. But then again, it depends what the developer tried to achieve with the game and its story and message, or messages. But now, let's talk about the characters. The characters in this game are very realistic. Realistic in a sense that I could easily imagine them existing in real life. Well, except for one, but more about him in a moment. So, because of that realism, most of them are not that interesting or very memorable. The best character I think is the main protagonist herself, Cathy Rain. She's strong-willed, the kind of woman who needs no man, determined, tough, straightforward, and doesn't take bullshit from anyone. She's also caring and sassy, and I assume she's an atheist too, since she was always degrading religion whenever it was brought up, and she showed no signs of faith at any point. She also has a troubled past, which is a big part of the game's plot, so I'm not gonna go deeper into that. Let's just say that she doesn't have the most stable family. As for other characters, there are two others I particularly liked. The first one, the one I just briefly mentioned, the one who is perhaps the least realistic out of all the characters in the game, the Bum. I forgot his name, but I always called him the Bum anyway. He's easily the most amusing character in the game, but maybe a little too much compared to the others. He just feels over the top while talking about his past career as a film director or something. All of his films he claimed to have worked on being references to real life films like, let's see, Silence of Lambert was one of his films I think, which of course is a reference to Silence of the Lambs. I think someone in the game mentioned that he's a bit nuts, and he's not the only one with mental problems, but still, he felt out of place in my opinion. Funny character, but a bit over the top, which I don't really mind too much. The other character whom I also liked a lot was this old World War II war veteran and a successful businessman named Charles Waits. I just really liked his voice, done by Frank Todaro.
Joseph was the best friend I ever had. We grew up together. married our high school sweethearts together, went to war together. I can't even begin to count the number of times he's saved my life. I repaid the favor once or twice, but he came up ahead, no doubt.
I could listen to him for hours. And the voice acting in general was good in this game, so I don't have any complaints about that either. As for the graphics and music, as you can see, Catty Rain is an old school looking game with its pixel art graphics that I like a lot, and even 320 by 240 screen resolution. It doesn't support today's standard 1920 by 1080 resolution. It's really a nice looking game, so if you are into pixel art graphics, I think you'll like how Catty Rain looks. The music is rather interesting to listen to as well. The title screen music, for example, starts soft and then turns heavy. The background music of every location is fitting and sets the atmosphere well, and some of them are rather memorable. I finished the game about 3 months ago and I can still remember some of the music tracks in the game, so that should say something. Now to the puzzles. I really enjoyed the puzzle design in this game. Every single one of them made sense to me. I did get stuck a few times, but not because the puzzles were illogical or anything, and I never felt desperate enough to go and check out a walkthrough. Some of them were simply tough. 3 specific puzzles especially made me think about the solution for quite a while. Funnily enough, all 3 of them were about figuring out the right number combination or a password to open something, like a briefcase or a door. Although the first of the 3 was the kind of puzzle that you either get immediately or you don't. I didn't. I spent almost the entire second episode of the Let's Play figuring out the number combination to the briefcase and didn't get it. But at the start of the next episode I got it immediately. Another thing that I like about the puzzle design of the game is that Catty herself gives some hints how to do this puzzle. Like, when I was struggling with the briefcase, I was wondering if I had to do some math with the numbers. But when I clicked on something, don't remember what it was exactly, but at some point Catty said, I don't think I need to do any math. So that was the game's way of telling me that I don't need to do any math calculations to figure out the code, and that was very much appreciated. Not a big fan of math. The most fun puzzle in my opinion was the one where we had to use a sound editing software on our computer to make a fake voice message using the words in messages recorded to a cassette tape, and then we use it to make a new voice message to certain someone to get the information we wanted. That was very creative, although a bit tedious as well because we had to use very specific words in specific order in our new fake message, and it took some time to get the right words and the order. But I enjoyed it regardless. Another thing that I liked about the game as far as gameplay in general is concerned is how the game excluded out certain locations from the location selection screen whenever you are on your motorcycle going to another location. If you had picked up everything and saw everything you needed to see in a location, then the game grays it out and you can't go there anymore. So there's no pointless backtracking going to places where there is literally nothing you need to do or pick up. I wished more games did this. Not all of them, of course, because some games simply don't have location selection screens, but it would be nice if more games that does have did this. Now lastly I want to say something about the story, more specifically the ending. Don't worry, I'm not gonna spoil it for those who haven't seen or played the game themselves. But like I said earlier, I don't think I could even if I tried, because I honestly have no idea what happened at the ending. The whole story of the game was very confusing. I actually went to check online in case there's multiple endings in this game, and I just happened to get the most confusing one. But no, there is no multiple endings as far as I know. I did find many forum threads theorizing the meaning of the ending, so I wasn't the only one who didn't get it, but I didn't read any of that because I wanted to give my very own thoughts without being influenced by other people's opinions. There were just many unanswered questions and very few answers. What happened to our grandfather? Why did the young artist commit suicide? What were those 3 mysterious lights? Who is that creepy guy in red suit who looked like Mr. Clean's evil cousin, and what did he want? What was that weird place where we were in the endgame? I didn't get answers to any of those questions, from what I can remember, so I was constantly guessing what was going on. Maybe Mr. Clean in red was the devil? Maybe Catty herself was not mentally stable and all of that weird shit happened in her head? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Now, let me answer to the 2 questions I asked at the beginning of this video first. Is Catty Rain a good mystery/detective game? Well, unfortunately I must say that no, not really. Because it didn't give, at least to me, a satisfying ending, giving the answers to most important questions. What happened exactly? What was going on? Who did what and why, and so on. A good detective and mystery game not only brings up more questions and mysteries as the game goes on, but also answers to those questions at the end. Now don't get me wrong, I don't mind if some questions are left unanswered and left to players' interpretation, that's fine, but the ending was just too vague for me to feel satisfied and left me confused instead. Cathy Rain is doing half the job, building up the mystery and raise more questions, but leaves them unanswered. So don't expect a satisfying ending that provides answers to all of the important questions, explaining it all, or even most of the mystery. But if you don't care too much about the ending but the journey itself, then I think you are going to enjoy this adventure game. Because I certainly did. The game looks nice, the music is good and fitting, I like the voice acting, the puzzles were logical and challenging, it has some very powerful and emotional moments. It's overall a very solid and memorable experience and well done point-and-click adventure game, and that's most important I think. I can easily recommend this to any point-and-click adventure game enthusiasts. It's not too hard, but not too easy either. And I just recently found out that the developer of the game, Joel Staff Haster, who is Swedish and founder of Clifftop Games, and by the way did all the game designing, writing and programming. So basically everything but the artwork and music, which is very impressive. So anyway, he's working on a new game called Whispers of a Machine. I don't know much about this game since I just found out about it, but it looks intriguing and I will definitely play that as well at some point when it comes out. So, those were my thoughts on Cathy Rain. What are your thoughts on the game? Let me know in the comments and thanks for watching.